Hello. Nice to meet you.
So maybe later after the results are done,
Hello.
I will approach students.
Hey, hey. Yeah. Yesterday I was doing research, right? For broadcast, right? It's like. Sorry, I muted it. Yeah. So the indefinite will have a bit of lag. Yeah. But I didn't. No, but you see, I was asking some broadcast dudes, right? They said that it's actually like 30 seconds, lag. Yeah. Yeah. So they said actually, naturally, it's about 30 seconds. It's over.
It's max already on my laptop.
Uh, on speaker, so sorry. Yeah. And it's like full lah. Even the main volume for the laptop is 100. Okay, then it's soft. But I mean, not everyone will use right earpiece. Test 2 2. Check. Oh, feed. Hey. But I mean, I'm not. I haven't talked real loud this like me talking to you like normally, because we're so close, right? So, but the. Hi everyone, welcome to But I'm too shy now, so.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. Welcome to SUTD. My name is Christine Yogiaman. I'm an assistant professor at the ASD Pillar. I'm hosting today's event, and it's really part of the ArchiFuture Design Challenge. Okay. So we're also live, as we understand it. So welcome everybody who is joining us from home or wherever you are. So as you can see, maybe on the screen, we have a couple of students and participants sitting on the very relaxed environment. And we have these panel of sort of juries and distinguished guests to do today's roundtable discussion. So I'll do just a quick summary of today's event. Oops, sorry. Maybe can we do next? I seem to have a problem with the clicker. So more is joining us from the back. So do come on and sit. Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry for the hiccup. So very quickly, today's events, it's very short and we hope to sort of engage everybody here in this room. We'll do a brief introduction and we'll hear from the three jury speakers who would introduce maybe a little bit of their ideas towards the challenge topic and also of their work currently in this area. We will then have a roundtable discussion that will be hosted by Dr. Tai Li-Xiang. Professor Tai Li-Xiang, sorry. We'll then go on to announce the prize winner of the challenge, and then we'll end the program. So it's very straightforward. We'll just quickly introduce the jury speakers before we move forward. We're very happy to have Professor Chong Kun Yen today with us. She is the chair of the LKY-CIC and also professor practice in SUTD. She is concurrently the chairman of the Center of Livable Cities under the Ministry of National Development. And she was also the CEO of HDB from 2010 to 2020. So there's many sort of accolades under her belt. So do, if you like to talk to her after today's session, that'll be fantastic. I'm sure she'll engage in a conversation. We also have Ho Ziyin, who is the managing director at Loud, an award-winning Singapore-based practice who constantly seeks to push the boundaries of contemporary design. Ziyin led the development of notable projects such as Agape Village, DAC, and eBridge Large Childcare Center. He was featured in URA's third edition of 20 Under 40 Architect Exhibition. We have Phua Hong Wei. He's the director at WOHA, an award-winning Singapore practice that integrates architectural and urban solutions to tackle the problems of the 21st century. Hong Wei brings his keen interest in community and greenery integration into projects such as Kampong Admiralty and Enabling Village. He is also featured in URA's third edition of 20 Under 40 Architects Exhibition. Okay, and of course, our host today for the roundtable is Professor Tai. He's our pillar head at ASD. And well, I have to say this, but prior to this, he was also the executive director at BCA. Okay. All right. So today's panel roundtable discussion is really the end of the series of events. We just kind of wanted to acknowledge that. It started on the 13th of January with a series of workshops for 3 days. And there's a kind of challenge submission on the 19th, and today is sort of the last of the end of this. I just want to give a bit of context for the work that has been done. Here today joining us are the student facilitators and teams in the ASD who has worked really hard to put this whole event together. So really kudos to them. So the students, participants there are about 50 of you who came, and you have experienced a series of lectures, right? There's been sort of taught. You've engaged in drawings and making in various ways. This way, kind of hybrid making with physical kind of objects to create a game, right? To explore. And we've brought that into also the way that we deal with computation and drawing and modeling in the computer. You've worked quite intensely, right? Individually sometimes, but also together. I think there's a lot of discussions and things that's quite productive going on. We're not forgetting the facilitators who make that all happen. I kind of got enough of these pictures, right? Because these are the kind of activities, right, that make your experience the way they are. So the conversations that you've had and the kind of mentorship that you get from the seniors here. Lastly, we really enjoy the kind of presentation the participants have done at the end of each day. So thank you for this effort. Okay, so without further ado, I will give the floor to our juries to be able to discuss the work. Thank you. There's no particular order, so.
Well, we're going to share a bit about our work, right? I think first, thank you very much for participating. Actually, I'm very happy to see that you all participated, you know. And when the topic came out, I said, can you don't design one building? My background is that of an architect planner, so I always look at things in slightly more macro. So I thought since the topic is about nature, actually I have trouble sitting here and looking at the screen. So I'm going to stand around here, okay? You don't have to see me, you just need to see the screen. You look there. So my interest really is in this integration of nature and development. So I thought I'll share a little bit broader beyond a singular building to some of the work that I did when I was in the Housing and Development Board. And you might have read about this also, but I thought I'll just share only one specific aspect, given that I only have 10 minutes. And it really talks more about integration of nature and development, not singular building, but looking at a more macro perspective. So I'm supposed to use this. Okay. Now you all know that quite a number of HDB towns, right? Something like 23 towns and 3 estates. And Tengah is actually the latest new town that is being developed. And we all know HDB houses like 80% of the population in 1.1 million flats. Now, where's Tengah? How many of you live in the West? Oh, I do have people living in the West. Great. Okay. Well, Tengah is actually near NTU. It's actually near 2 very important areas. One is the Jurong Lake District and one is the Jurong Innovation District. But Tengah is also very interesting. It is actually sited between the Western catchment and the Central catchment, right? So it forms this little bridge, you know, east-west and north-south from Kranji Reservoir down to Jurong Lake District. These are actually quite beautiful areas. And if you look at Tengah, it's actually very green. Sorry, when HDB coming, it won't be so green anymore. But that's the challenge, right? The challenge is how do you get development in and yet you want to keep the green? It's difficult, right? The human being still needs to live somewhere. So we conceptualized it together with NParks as Tengah, the forest town. So it's very conflicting, right? High density development, and we call it a forest town. And we wanted a place for work, live, play, and learn. And there are 6 big ideas. I won't go through all because there's no time. But really, one key idea is that it is an evergreen forest town. And we want people to walk and cycle everywhere. We want to move around with ease. And every district will be different. There are 5 districts. And we want to build close-knit communities and to be a sustainable and smart town. So integrating nature is important, given that there's this very strategic location. So the first thing was to try and safeguard a 100-meter wide forest corridor. And these are really the tropical primary forest type plants that are in the areas. from east to west that we want to try and do this bridging. Of course, it goes beyond the town. We have to have green corridors leading all the way to the central catchment area. And the idea is really beyond that. You have a lot of green pathways, green corridors within the town, linking up various aspects, and also a garden farmway and a plantation farmway. Now, these green corridors are very important because in the planning of the town, we use digital twins to actually try and simulate what the town's performance will be like, particularly thermal comfort. And these green corridors really enable you to have wind flows right through the town. Okay, so that's very macro planning. And one of the ideas was to have an urban farming vision. Because at that time, when we first started planning this, we thought about urban farming, but I said there's no place to do urban farming. Can we do something that's more significant? So here we are going to trial things like commercial farming, community gardening, and the idea of a farm to table idea. You can grow your vegetables and just bring it to the restaurant in the neighborhood center and just have a restaurant cook it for you. So why not? But planting is not just about planting. You know, in your projects, you had this tree, right? Every house has a tree and, but it's not just about planting. Sometimes we say we plant 1 million trees, but it's not about the planting. It's how you plant and the science behind the planting. So the landscaping and the growing of the greenery is guided by the biophilic town framework. I won't go into it, but the idea is that you need the science. How to use the soil, the flora and fauna, water, to give outdoor comfort for people. There's a whole science on this. If you want, you Google it. There's a whole framework that has been put and it's on the website. It's available for your reading, okay? And really, it's about getting ecological balance, how to get sustainable landscape, and how to use landscape to build community bonds. And it's also about a variety of planting, woodlands, grasslands, rain gardens, right? Which will attract insects, flora and fauna, dragonflies, etc., butterflies. And it's about trying to harvest rainwater and recycle the use as well. So there's a lot of science, and we are inserting a lot of community farms into these green areas. All right. And of course, there's lots of benefits when you put in greenery and we grow fruits and spices. We think of urban forests. We think of, huge trees, forest giants, right? You can grow these, and over time, one thing good about Singapore is things grow. So over time, these will grow. Nature trails and thematic gardens. And every district will be designed differently with a lot of greenery inserted, okay? I won't go into each of these, but these are just images to have a feel of what they look like. And the planting is not just parks on the ground, but you bring the planting upwards onto the buildings. And in some of the projects that we saw, which you submitted, some of those ideas were there, right? Huge terraces, sky gardens. So similarly, this is being done on a very big scale when you do a HDB town, and it is being realized. In fact, some of these are being built. I won't go into detail, but more and more, especially because of the pandemic, we are much more aware of the need for health and wellness. So in the planting of greenery, it's not just planting the greenery, but can we encourage a lot of roof gardens? In fact, one of the projects here is where we are going to build a sky sports park with a running circuit, and it's on top of your multi-story car park. And we're going to put some of the stairs for the multi-story car park outside. Who wants to climb a multi-story car park stair? Nobody. But why can't we make the stair more fun? Put it outside, And I set them the brief. Can you make an Instagrammable moment, if I were to climb the stair? Maybe for every 10 steps, I can have an extra ice cream, or something. How do you nudge behavior through design, health, and wellness? How do we weave that in? So again, I won't go into details, but just give you a flavor that some of these were thought about just as you were trying to build your housing, integrating with the tree, right? Some of these things are things we think about. And of course, it's about promoting social well-being, the types of public spaces that you provide, big spaces, civic plazas, social verandas at the neighborhood level, and community living rooms at a building level. So it's not just about designing one building. You have to think in different scales as we do design. And neighborhood centers become social and wellness hubs as well. And of course, it is a car-light town. It will be well served by the MRT. We want people to walk and cycle, take the bus, and we're introducing autonomous buses and shuttles as a pilot into this town. And EV-ready car park lots. So this is all part of health and wellness, getting people to walk, to cycle, having a car-light town, separate paths for pedestrians and cyclists, shared paths. And in fact, there'll be 7.7 kilometers of cycling tracks, which will be the densest cycling network in Singapore. Okay? So also the town center would be car-free completely. We're going to build all the transportation underground. That's the concept. I hope they will carry through with it. I'm not there, so I hope the idea will come through. But hopefully, fully walkable town center. All right. So that's Tengah, to live well, live smart, and to live connected. Okay, thank you. I'll just stop there. There are many aspects. I didn't go into the technology and all that, but some other time. All right, thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's really good to be here. It's very heartening to see so many young people interested in architecture. And I think on behalf of the jury, we were all pleasantly surprised at the quality of the works. And despite given such a short time and having to learn so much, like we understand you had to pick up the programming of the software and doing the design and finally the output. So it's really nice. Hopefully. Very intense. Welcome to the life of the architect. But really, I hope, amongst this batch, some great architects will emerge. So today I'm just sharing not the whole town, but just one project. And it's a project in Punggol, and it's a large childcare center. So our firm typically does design buildings. And this large childcare center was completed about 2 years ago. Okay, so it's not in. Does it need line of sight or something? Maybe I'll just say next and you help me. No. Yeah, could you just click for me? Thanks. So the next slide, please. Oh, it's hung. Okay. I'll try. Okay, click it for me. All right. So in a nutshell, this childcare is designed for 1,000 kids. It's pretty large. In fact, it's the largest in Singapore, and they needed it very, very fast. So from the time it commissioned us, it took about 10.5 months to build because apparently we are in need of a lot of childcare, especially in the newer estates in Punggol. So next, please. What is a childcare? It's something that we don't think about it so much, but what is the requirements of childcare? We found out through research and interacting with the clients that it is actually a safe learning environment that also embodies environmental comfort for the children. And the kids from age 0, meaning infant, to 4 years old, they learn in a very different way. They don't learn from reading or they don't do math. They learn by their physical activities. So sense of touch, sense of balance, and even by play. So this is a space that we envision to design for them. Next, please. I think we don't need to, we can skip the details. Okay, the site is right in the middle of Punggol HDB housing estate, a pretty flat and squarish piece of land. Next. Overlooked by tall blocks. But the very first, okay, so this is 1,000 kids, right? To visualize how many children we need to accommodate in. The first thing we were concerned with is the noise, because you know how when the kids start crying. That's number one. The second we were most concerned is actually the traffic safety. Because imagine 1,000 kids, they come in 1,000 cars every morning from 7 to 8. It's going to be a lot of congestion. So how do we solve it in terms of design? Next, please. That's why the first thing we did was to segment the whole center into 3 parts to be a more manageable size. 300 plus is a manageable size for a childcare, and each of them will have one principal. Okay, next, please. And what we did was to create a safety zone. Since the site was square, it makes a lot of sense to create a roundabout kind of situation where the cars come in from one side and exit on the others. And inside that buffer zone, the colored segments, those are the classrooms. No vehicle will be able to go through. So once you pass the gate, inside will be totally vehicular free, and it's a safe zone for children. That's how the primary shape of the circle came about. Okay, and if it's totally overcrowded, the vehicles could drop the kids at any of the circumference of the circle. Okay, the next thing, you may have heard that kids get hand, foot, mouth disease quite often. That was a pre-COVID era, but now since it's COVID, the principles are the same. What happens if one of your schoolmates, classmates got hand, foot, mouth? The whole class will have to be quarantined. Even if they have shown no symptoms. For that 2 weeks, they can't play with the rest of the kids. They have to take separate entrances. So this circular form also works because it has 3 alternate entrances, and the rest of the kids can bypass that classroom and still use the facilities. So these are the various reasons that contribute to the shape of the diagram. We call it the diagram, and eventually the shape of the building itself. Okay, thanks. Next challenge, scale. It is not small. The whole internal diameter of the space is 40 meters. We were concerned as young kids, they may be overwhelmed by the largeness of the space. That is also why we segmented the internal space into 3 portions and locate a multi-purpose hall right in the middle. So they will have 3 sub-courts. Court number 1 is the main entrance. Next, please. This is the eventual look. You see the 3 segments at the end. So I think the laser pointer is here. So what we call the 3-point bridge houses a multi-purpose hall, and it cuts the space into 3 portions. So it's more like a more human scale. So we were very concerned how this effect of this vast space will have on the little kids. Next, please. The other segment, it's actually a playground for very young kids, toddlers and infants. They don't have slides, but basically they have contours for them to climb around, for them to roll down that little hill. It may be very low for us, but it is literally a mountain for them because they are only on their all fours, right? And some of them just suntan on the mat there. So it's artificial turf. And next, please. And the last segment is a water play area, okay, for the older kids. Next, please. Next thing, environmental comfort. One of the design brief, it's actually for the whole center to operate under natural ventilation. For such a dense, high population, it's actually quite a challenge. That's why we try to create classrooms that are very thin. So it's about 14.5 meters across to allow air to circulate through at all times. And also it's aided by HVLS fans that pull air from the outside and expel it upwards. So on a good day, actually, you go there, there's always a constant breeze going through. They do not need to turn on the air conditioning on their normal operating hours. Next, please. This is a space right in the center, the multi-purpose hall. Is usually used for dining, and you see these arches. They are totally, it could be totally open such that the air just flows through. Okay, next please. This section shows how it works. Basically, the whole this is a 2-story building with a roof, and arcing over this big central space is a Teflon structure. Okay, and it has an Oculus right in the middle to let the warm air out, but also it lets in the rain, which is by design, because we didn't want to create an environment that the kids are totally cut off from nature. If it rains, we want them to hear, we want them to feel, and if the teachers allow them, we want them to be able to play in the rain. So that's how this Oculus is designed. And the whole Teflon is lifted about 5 meters such that the airflow really flow through the whole entire building. Next, please. These are, of course, simulations to test our theories, and then we will adjust accordingly. This simulation is generated by the HVLS fans to show, to simulate the airspeed at any particular area of the childcare. Okay, next, please. Similar, next, please. So this is the Oculus, where we had a hard time convincing the clients initially because of children's safety, that when it rains, in Singapore, tropical rain, the whole downpour comes in. But of course, there are hidden channels, and finally managed to convince the client by, of course, next please, by doing simulation, such that even in the heaviest or downpour, only this concentric circle gets wet. So that the rain doesn't spill onto the first story, and no children will slip and fall, and all the safety concerns. Okay, so with that, we managed to get it. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, so after saying all that, we literally almost built the diagram. This is the actual plan of the building. One ring, all the classrooms. You may notice that all the classrooms are highly repeated because we needed to build this place in very, very short time. So it's super modular. And once the contractor figure out how to do one, they can just repeat it without errors. So that is also another advantage of this. Next, please. Second story with the 3-point bridge linking it. Next, please. So circulation-wise, we are talking about kids, very young kids are situated on the ground floor, but 3 to 4 years old on the second floor, and they go up to the roof to play. It's really not ideal, or rather it's definitely much better to create a ramp to link them up. So this ramp circulates from first to second to the roof. And every morning, sometimes the grandparents bring the kids here as well. So it's definitely easier for the elderly as well. Plus, as I mentioned, the children learn by balancing. So going up and down the ramp itself is a learning experience for these kids. Next, please. The main entrance and places for self-check, temperature taking. Once we go through this, anyway, on big events, let's say open house or neighborhood parties, they will open these gates and the internal and external space just flows freely. Next, please. The main view of the entrance court. Next, please. And we situated some slides here and there. These particular ones are facing the main foyer because we thought that the kids can engage in play while waiting for their parents to come. Some like it so much that they don't want to leave. They don't want to go back with their parents, but it's a happy place. It is a school where play areas are interspersed internally within the school itself, rather than the school and outside it, all the external playgrounds are on the external. So you could find play spaces all over. Okay, next please. Water play. where they learn about the properties of water, how to handle it, and then the physics of it. Next. And this is the infant toddler play area. Next, please. So we come to those were the more like a overarching planning parameters, but we also are very conscious that kids at their age learn by tactile and by recognition of colors. So we picked up on the Sparkle Tots logo, which is actually a rainbow spectrum, and design a mosaic inlay at the front of every classroom. So every classroom has a color. So imagine you are 1 year old, you'll progress up the different color spectrum as you grow older into a different colored classrooms. And this pattern is also repeated as a landscape concept. Next, please. So colored mosaics, next, please. And this gives a very subtle color differentiation in front of every classrooms. Next, please. And we also wanted to create, instead of naming numerals, the classroom's numerals, we wanted to spark the children's imagination. So different animals are created out of circular segments. It may or may not be a fox. It may or may not be a porcupine. It doesn't matter. It's something, as long as the children latch onto it and imagine something out of it. Next, please. So we came out with a whole series of the classrooms. Next, please. And they're all embedded on the classroom's walls. So these are the main entrance to each and every classroom. And, designing for children, they are less than 1 meter tall. That is why there are glass panels in the lower part instead of the upper part. These are for children to see their friends as they pass by the corridors. And not to mention, of course, all the wash basins, all the lockers, and is like really low. The upper part is for teachers to pin up the timetable and, the administrative stuff. Okay, next, please. Next, please. And these are the internal, the wash basins, the miniature wash basins in the classrooms. Next, please. And nowadays, I think early childhood pedagogy has evolved to become quite sophisticated. So there's a whole theory out there. We work with our clients, the teachers, to design various needs for them to teach the children. Okay, next, please. And this is on a good day. The sun shines through the Oculus, and the sun disk actually moves with the time of the day. So it's really enlivened the internal space. And to me as an architect, I really find it very interesting to see that the children has adopted the spaces and hang their artworks, as a display all over the place. So it really humanizes the architecture. Next, please. Okay, now finally we reach the roof. So the roof is designed like a pizza slice. The idea is not to create a very varied experience as you run through. Children love to run round and round. So the different slices are different functions of play. Next, please. Some can be net play, some can be forest, some can be sandpit. So as they run along the circumference, they encounter different sorts of play modes. And this could be switched out over the years. Okay, next, please. So finally, we reached the roof. It's really important that, this center is overlooked by 2 HDB high rises. The fifth elevation, the roof elevation must look clean. It shouldn't have, M&E, aircon spewing out. So we make sure that to design something that is very well kept and look decent from the top. Next, please. The elevation. And finally, this is the children's impression of the center, where they're asked to draw something for the opening. Yeah, circles and circles. Okay. This is the last slide. Thank you very much.
All right. Let me try whether it can click. I try. Oh, full screen. All right, it works. Hi, good afternoon. As mentioned by the panel, we are all very impressed by the thought processes as we went about looking at the submissions. And I think one of the key takeaways that we hope that you had over the workshop is to value nature. As a design practice, we have always been looking at nature as part of a design tool, design palette, and design expression. And our early forays into incorporating nature in architecture cuts into several typologies. For example, Newton Suites, we have incorporated sky gardens at every 5 stories. That's abutting a vertical green wall. And this brings nature to the doorsteps of the residents. Another example, Bugis Plus, we juxtapose greenery with the crystals of the facade to offer moments of respite to the entertainment and shopping districts. Another example is School of the Arts, where the building had long, thin classroom blocks, and we have put in layers of green screen that frame views of the Fort Canning as well as the city. Another example will be Power Pickering, where we accommodate the entire green area of the adjoining Hong Lim Park within the building. And this encapsulates the idea of a hotel in a garden. Now, so all these examples shows how buildings can coexist with nature. And we know buildings make the city. Buildings are components of the city. And I think for all of us, we know buildings cannot just occupy and take. So if you do that, the city will be poor and lack of common good. To us, we see buildings as good citizens. They must strengthen and reinforce the sense of community. They must contribute back to the city generously. They must promote ecosystems and biodiversity. They must also be responsible and sustainable. So to us, a good building must care for nature. But what are we doing to nature? We know humans now are taking 1.7 times of what the Earth can regenerate every year. The climate is changing. Climate change has shown us that humans are part of a bigger ecosystem. And I'm pretty sure COVID also has highlighted that we are has highlighted our interconnected with nature and how gratifying nature can be. So we must, So we must let nature flourish. In a way, planting takes away carbon from the air and locks it away. It is a cost-effective solution. It's time-proven. Planting reduces ambient temperature. It regulates water flow. It filters the air, removes the pollutants, and also encourages biodiversity. So what can nature do for us? I share with you a few examples. Nature nurtures community. Enabling Village is a community development that serves people with disability. We had to repurpose an old school compound that was built in the 1970s. So these are a few pictures showing the pre-transformation conditions. As you can see, the site is fenced. There's limited frontage. The car park actually cuts off the buildings from the edges. In a way, the site turns its back from the surroundings. Today, we inserted a biopond in place of the car park to offer moments of respite and calm for the users.
People now, as highlighted by our client, they used to walk from point A to point B really fast because there's nothing to see. But now today, they take their time, they enjoy, they take in, they appreciate the biophilic environment. This is another area of the compound where we have the old classroom block wrapping around a underutilized slope courtyard. We overlay an amphitheater, weaving in steps, ramps, and seats with enough space for prams and wheelchair. It's a multi-purpose space for events and for gatherings as well. And it has also become a pretty popular spot for group photo. And I think some pictures also showing that some people have really innovative use for that. We inserted concrete sewer pipes under the amphitheater as sitting nooks and future community walls. But there are Instagrammers that kind of reimagine the space in ways that we have not thought about. And the project also brought out the Galunguni in us. We repurposed sea containers as cafe points, pavilions, as well as meeting rooms. We also earmarked building walls as canvases for collaborative art with autistic children. We incorporated a wide spectrum of flora, and that also brings about a wide diversity of ecosystem. So as you can see, the village is full of life. It is a truly inclusive environment. And to us, enabling village is an environment that integrates nature, and in a way, by doing so, it connects. It has the ability to connect and engage the user. Nature also nurtures livability. Kampong Amity is an integrated development that has heartland retail, hawker center, medical center, elder care, childcare, all under one roof. So the idea was to envision it as a modern village of kampong. So what we did was we elevated the ground as a step roof park. We stacked the program under the park, and we lifted the whole block up to create a sheltered porous plaza. And we inserted the elderly housing as 2 blocks within the garden. So by doing so, we created 2 unique environments, a roof park, a serene roof park, as well as a busy civic plaza on ground. So this photo shows the plaza that's open. That's open on 3 sides to nature. It serves as a day-to-day thoroughfare, but also as a urban living room for residents, for the neighborhood to do events. The entire plaza is sheltered by the footprint of the medical center. There are garden courtyards at the medical center that brings nature closer to the user. And these courtyards open up to the roof park, where it incorporates common amenities like sitting nooks, play, fitness corners, basically gathering space for not just the residents, but also for the neighborhood. The roof park steps up as a series of ramps, steps, and lookout points for the residents, the elderly residents, to have a close walking trail, exercise trail for them to take up and down every day. At the top of this park, we have a urban farm, which is tended by the residents as well as volunteers. So as you can see, there is a wide variety of community space that's embedded in nature. And I think to us, Kampong Amity shows that a sustainable development that coexists with nature is always full of gain. Next, nature also nurtures identity. Oasia Hotel Downtown is an integrated development with hotel and office programs. We see this as a modern tropical skyscraper, a soft skyscraper that juxtaposed against the very hard-edged urban concrete jungle. When we shared this design in one of the design forum, one of the audience stood up and said that he has a window overlooking this big tree in his bedroom, and he gets his energy every morning when he wakes up and had this view of this big tree. And indeed, it is a tree. Back in 2020, we actually had the Himalayan vultures visiting and roosting at the rooftop of this big tree. And as mentioned by this Instagrammer, it really works. So this series of diagrams shows how we assemble the program. Basically, we stack them up vertically. We inserted sky terrace in between the programs. And by doing so, we duplicated the ground 4 times up vertically. We enveloped the building with a green facade. And by counting all the horizontal and vertical surfaces, we achieved 1,100% green replacement. That means to say that the building can compensate green area of 10 other sites of equivalent area. So it's important for us to land the building, so the greenery and the facade is brought down to the ground so that people on the streets can enjoy nature. I always tell my boys that this is a giant beanstalk. The sky terraces are urban sky rooms with amenities. It's also important for us that the greenery, the nature, can be enjoyed by both the guests as well as the city. And to us, Oasia Hotel Downtown shows that a building that coexists with nature can be sustainable, responsible, and also sociable. Last project I want to share is the Singapore Pavilion Expo Dubai. This shows nature can nurture future. Way back in 2009 when we broke ground, we were there. It was a desert, barren, hostile, hot. And I think it was very clear, an oasis is needed. This is a photo taken about the same spot when we opened in 1st October 2021, just last year. There was a 1 year delay due to COVID. I'll bring you through some photos in the days leading to the opening. When you arrive at the pavilion, you're engaged by many layers of greenery. You see projecting skywalks of green cone, capped with flying decks and a flying roof. There's a bio pond in the foreground that offers a very calm ambience and also reflects and multiplies the greenery around. Once you are inside, you take a meandering trail within the pavilion between a thick planted edge as well as 3 cones, 3 9-meter cones, 9-meter height cones. The visitors are brought into a city cone where for a multimedia show. Here we showed the world that we are in and the world we want to be in. And then they take a canopy walk up to the higher floors and along the way, taking in the sights and sound of the greenery that we have created. They are led to the rainforest cone where we showcase tropical plants on the green walls. And they are ushered to the flower cone where our national flower is put on vibrant display. And along the green cone, you see tracks curling around the walls. These are for climbing robots. They are equipped with sensors and cameras that monitor the health of the plants and collect data like humidity. The guests are led back to the rainforest cone where they take a ramp up to the Sky Market. The Sky Market is an open deck where it's a forum for interactions, for further insights, for events, and for gatherings. So since opening, the response has been positive. It was voted as one of the greenest pavilion in the Expo. I think everyone is interested on how to create a sustainable oasis in a desert. As you can see, we really went out to impress. We achieved 170% green replacement by more than 80,000 plants. And the effect of nature can be felt. When we measured the temperature, the reading on the left shows 36 degrees out, whereas it shows 29 degrees on the surface of the green cone. This is within a desert condition. And To cap it all, we actually have more than 500 photovoltaic panels on the roof. This generates sufficient energy to run the pavilions over the 6 months. And all the energy use were designed, managed, calibrated so that over the 6 months duration, the pavilion achieved a net zero energy. So Singapore Pavilion at Dubai to us shows a possible future of how we can integrate buildings with nature. I'll end with this question. What can we do for nature? There's a saying, the environment shapes us as well as we shape our environment. I think through the workshop that you have been through, you have learned how to shape your environment through design, through technology. So you can design. And I think we all look forward for a better future ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the three presentation. I think it brought forward quite a lot of different areas and topics. So now I will hand over the session to Dr. Prof. Tai. Yes.
Thanks, Christy. Yeah, I'm quite sure you are eager to find out who won, right? And what prize did you get? So I won't make this very long. And since you came to this event also wanting to find out more about the career of an architect, so I'm just going to focus a very short discussion on a few things. One is why do you choose to be an architect? And secondly, well, not everything is always, I mean, like life, not everything is always straight line up. Huh? So what are the greatest challenges you've experienced as an architect, and what is your greatest achievement looking back? All right. So simple question and simple answer, and then we can move to the prize. So Kunia, I'm going to start with you. I never had this chance to actually talk to you about this. So I'm also hearing for the first time. I won't name the year, but I'm quite sure that was some time back where architecture as a career is not kind of automatic or intuitive. So why did you choose to become an architect at that time?
Well, I'm a lot older than many people here. So I must say that when I studied architecture, there were very few ladies, in the class. I was overseas, and actually most of them were male rather than female. But today is different. I understand NUS is like half, or maybe slightly even more females than male. Yeah. So that's a good sign, just looking at the numbers here.
Yeah, we are more than half.
Yeah, so actually it doesn't matter. Gender is not the issue, right? So I think pursue what you really love and passion. But having said that, after studying architecture, I actually didn't become an architect. So I'm a little different from them. From representation, you can tell. That's why life sometimes channels you differently. Because I came back, I was on a scholarship. So they channeled me to do urban planning. And initially, I wasn't very happy because I wanted to be an architect. But then having done urban planning, then I realized that, hey, it's a very different world. That's why my presentation is very different, because I take a much more macro view. And then I realized that, hey, that's not bad too, because you are able to influence the entire city, because it's not singular building, but it's a whole city or a whole town. So I grew to love it very much. So the story really is this. Architecture provides you with excellent training as a start. It doesn't matter, because you could take on something different. Like me, I went into urban planning, much more macro, whereas others have really honed their craft. And I just want to share this story. I was in Turin, Italy, all right? And in Italy, we all know is a wonderful place where you get handbags, beautiful clothes, anything, furniture, cars, anything, all right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that in Turin, because there's such a strong design culture.
Yeah.
So it's not just about architecture, but a design culture, right?
Yes.
So you find that they actually have many architecture graduates. But actually not all ended up practicing architecture. A lot of them go into fashion, design, as I said, furniture, cars, anything that requires design skill. So my point is that it doesn't matter because architecture provides such a wonderful foundation towards a whole range of things you could do in life. And I always tell people who come to me, I used to interview a lot of people and give scholarships, then I say, the thing about architecture as a course is very different from any other course. It changes your life. It changes what you read, what you watch, what you see, don't know whether what you eat, but it really influences the way you look at things, the way you live life in general. So I just stop there. Thank you.
Yeah, no, don't end there yet. I mean, in case you don't know, she's actually a leader in the field of urban planning. And in some ways, you're actually also one of the best developer to encourage good architecture in your role as CEO of HDB. I mean, it's looking at the work that you both have done. So
They all help to build those things.
yeah, so the quick question is that looking back, what do you feel is your greatest achievement?
Greatest achievement.
Yeah.
I must say that first is the achievement is not mine because planning is done by many people. But I think it gives me a great satisfaction in all architects, planners have many projects, right? So they have some favorite ones. So for me really is when I was in URA, Marina Bay was of course my favorite project because put in a lot of effort to get it to take off. So it's not just design, it's planning. It's not just design, it's also about having to fight, to get a lot of the things that I wanted, even the infrastructure, etc. And being able to work with very wonderful architects, Moshe Safdie and all that, and also fighting with the developers to make sure we get what we want for the city. So that was very exciting. In HDB, there's so many projects. I mean, Tengah, but it's on paper because Tengah is still being built, right? But the one that I really, actually so many projects I like. One is Punggol, all right, the phase 2 of Punggol where we did the waterway and we integrated greenery and all that. And the other one that is coming up, but haven't seen the final result, which I enjoyed very much, is I keep thinking Bidadari. I could tell you such a long story about why Bidadari, the way we plan is the way it is, but it's still under construction. So I will see whether in a few years it turned out to be what the vision was.
Yeah.
So quite a number.
So there you have a very rare talent in Singapore that lead the transformation. I know it's a teamwork, okay, but still without visionary leader, it's not easy to get there. All right, thanks, Kun Yen. Zing, so why did you choose to become an architect?
Well, actually, funny enough, my first choice when I go to university was to become an accountant. How different it turned out. Yes. So,
Okay, cancel the question.
Yeah, it's strange, right? A steady professional. But one evening, I was doing NS then, so I had 2 years to think about it. So one evening, as I was strolling along Singapore River, I looked up at the UOB tower that was under construction. It was designed by the famous Japanese architect Kenzo Tange. So I looked at the geometrical form and it's so intriguing, and the scaffolding was still being installed and they're doing weldings. So I thought that how nice, that someone can design something like that and benefit the people that uses it. And so that evening, I changed my enrollment without telling my parents. So they were really surprised. So here we are. I've never regretted it because I think one of my love is to create and shape environments that benefit users, people like you and me. And you cannot underestimate how much influence architecture has to our lives. From the moment you wake up to the moment you sleep. You're going through buildings, you're going through, spaces that are designed by someone, and that someone is actually architects. We have such a great power to improve the lives of people. So it also gives me pleasure to design more community-based projects rather than single users, because it benefits the people that it benefits so more widespread. it benefits community. And of course, on a much larger scale is what Dr. Chong does, designing for the whole city. But so that is actually, yeah, to think back, that's the reason why I chose to be an architect. Yeah.
So I'm going to be very candid and ask you this question. We're human, right? From the time that you decided to change from accountancy to architecture until this point in time, were there time that you thought you made the wrong choice?
No, actually, funny enough, never. Never. I can never imagine myself as an accountant, because also the part about architecture is the creative part as well. It is not only science, it's not only simulations, it is actually got to do a lot with the arts. And in back in the Renaissance era, they talk about the Renaissance man, know a bit of art, a bit of math, a bit of aesthetics, a bit of science. I think really the closest equivalent is really architects. Really need to know a bit of both of everything and to put it together. So I mean, I am learning. When we design childcare, we learn how young children are taught. We learn from the clients. When we design university buildings, we learn how they operate. So there's so much learning at different sort of projects. That's always learning, and it enriches us and it enriches the next project we design. So I really enjoy this process as well.
Okay, so I know you're still young, but looking back, what do you feel is your greatest achievement up to this point?
Not any single building, but I'm happy to have that my office, we are about 45, 46, that we have grown together through the years and have created many interesting projects, and the whole team of mine have basically stayed with us and growing together. I think so in that respect, not really a building, but my office. I think that is really my proudest achievement.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice to hear this refreshing answer. All right, Hong Wei. Of course, Hong Wei works for one of the top, if not the top firm. Sorry for that. I shouldn't say that, but let me just put it in another way. You work for Woha, which you saw design the Dubai Pavilion. So tell us again, why did you choose architecture as a career?
Pretty similar to Zane.
Well, you also chose
not an accountant, but I took triple science with the idea of because I loved biology when I was in college, and I think at that point in time it was okay. Let's try to study medicine. I mean, with biology, but the issue was that I was quite lousy at physics and chemistry, and the grades showed that after the A levels came in. So medicine was not something that was on the table at all for me. And I think since young, I grew up taking art lessons, so I exposed to drawing a lot. And I think one of the things that I can still remember is my first Lego set. I like to put things together and then take them apart and build something back different with the same things. So I think in a way, intuitively, architecture was a natural choice when we have to select what course to take. But I also went through the exercise of eliminating what I can't or I don't want to do. So I landed on architecture after NS. Like what Zing said, we have 2 years plus to make a selection. So it's something that I thought hard about, and I think like what Zing is also said, that it's not something that I regretted. I think it's certainly a career that I enjoyed and never look back. And yeah, every day is different. Every day you learn new things, and I think that's an aspect of the profession that I enjoyed.
Well, okay. Well, I think we're just going to quickly ask each of you to say a few words to our very precious next generation, a word of advice that they may be making a decision, maybe not now, but in time to come, as far as the architecture profession is concerned.
Well, I think to be in this profession, this trade, it goes beyond. You have not to see it as a profession, right? You have to see it as a passion, right? And I think one of the important traits that you should have is the idea of care, right? You need to care for your design, for the people you're designing for, and you also need to be curious, right? So as what Dr. Chong Zing has said, it's about knowing, trying to find out more, trying to gather information, and to connect the dots so that you can solve problem and bring about innovation, invent something new, and that in a way contribute back to the society or to the design environment.
Zing?
I think it's about the same words, but be warned, is not an easy career. So don't blame us next time. but Hong Wei say, it's like, as long as I think passion brings you through all the difficulties. I mean, like any job, I think there are good days and there are bad days. But I think at the end of the day, when you see your building built and then you see the people benefiting from it, to me, it's all worth it. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I think overall, I never regret. We never so the passion must be there first. Otherwise, you find it very painful. Yeah.
Kun Hian?
Okay, ditto. The thing is, architecture, actually, when you do architecture, it took me 2 years to realize what it is. When I first went into the course, I didn't understand what it was. And let me tell you, it has nothing to do with your A-level results or your IB or whatever. So don't worry if you think you don't score all A's. It's got nothing to do with it, But you score all A's, also it may have nothing to do with it. Because it's a very unusual course. And you have to like it, all right? You have to like it. So it is the aptitude for it rather than the bookwork, You can score A's in physics, or don't mean you will do well in architecture. But it's the aptitude, the ability to just like an environment, or like to design things, or like to change things, or like to influence things, and be very curious about the environment, about people, that you're designing for. So it's really more an aptitude that you will develop as you go into the course. It is not an easy course because it's long and you don't get a lot of sleep, but it's training for real life, I always remember when I was in the dormitory, the people who come in, looking very unkempt and very all that are all the architects. All night long, you've been working on projects. But there's a sense of great fulfillment when you achieve something. The journey is not easy, but because you have a passion, you have a vision, when it's done, you feel really great. I must tell you why I said Marina Bay. Every time I go back there, my colleagues also, and you look at all the struggles we went to get it off the ground, and just sit there and look at it, I think it was worth all that many years of heartache and hard work. So that's all I can describe. You got to go through that process, that journey, and the experience, and follow your heart. One of the, in a way, a saddest thing I experience is when I interview people and give an architecture scholarship, is that I see this person come to me and she has a portfolio of drawings, and he or she is obviously very good at it. They did visual studies and all that. And I say, really cut out to do the course. And they express great enthusiasm. Then when I give the scholarship, they come back and then they say, oh, I'm not doing it anymore. Why? Because the parents want them to be a doctor. So it's the other way around. So I'm just saying that it's not what your parents want, it's what you want, because this is your life. So think about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Hong Wei, Zing, and Kun Hian for the very candid sharing of their life story, which I never get tired of asking and hearing. So with that, once again, thank you all for participating in jury, and thank you for listening to this wonderful life story.
Thank you. So I think this concludes the kind of discussion session. We will now present the results. So we will do this in stages. There's a couple. So can we get the next slide up? I know. I'm sorry it took so long. We do want to acknowledge the 40 students or 40 participants who submitted. I think it does take, kind of concerted effort to complete. It's not easy. You've gone through that 3-day workshop, but out of the ones who've completed the workshop, these are the names who submitted. So we want to acknowledge that. Thank you so much for your submission. Next. So we want to first do the overall category presentation of award. We have 2 in this category, and we'd like to invite Dr. Chong to present this award. First one and the second. All right, so this category is for the successful exploration, original production, and the clarity in demonstrating response to the design challenge. We have Alexis Chong. Whoa. Thank you. So Alexis' exploration was successful in breaking large formation and to create intimate clustering at the human scale. The scheme won at her abilities to display a keen sense of formal and spatial awareness. So this is something that was discussed during the jury. So congratulations, Alexis. So next we have in the same category, the runner-up is Lyon Ray. Am I getting it right? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So Rayan Explorations was one of the most successful among her peers who envisioned the possibility of high density living. Her scheme responded to the site at the urban scale, while also working to create porosity that allowed the occupants to feel connected. So these are all the sort of renderings that was kind of appealing from the jury's point of view. All right, so moving on, the next slide. We will have the presentation of the overall category, which is, I guess, the overall winner. And we'll invite Prof. Tai to present this award. Okay. And this award goes to Benedict Chan. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Prof. Okay, so I'm gonna, this is a bit lengthy because it's a kind of a larger award. So let me just describe a little bit of Benedict's scheme. So Benedict's scheme stood out among others for its consistency of idea and clarity of thought. The staggering of trees is a formal strategy that he was able to carry out throughout the various scales, also maintaining a delicate sense of space. So that's something that was picked up. His scheme also is sensitive to the placement across from the Golden Mile complex. The diagonal arrangement allows for significant areas of ground to support a rich green habitat. So that was the kind of scalar thoughtfulness that we saw in this scheme. So congratulations, Benedict. Okay. Great. So I think moving forward, I think the next slide. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I think this is just to put together as a kind of summary of the 3 schemes that was looked at. And there was a kind of discussion about how these 3 schemes respond at the kind of variations of urban formation and types and scales. So the jury was really happy to see this kind of successful exploration across types. Yeah, thank you. Next. So now we do have these 6 mini challenges that were sprinkled along the 3 days. guided by our facilitators. So we want to sort of acknowledge the rigor and the explorations during these mini challenges. We have 6 awards to give out. And we'd like to invite Zuin first. Okay. I think the first 3. Okay. Oops, sorry. So for day 1, so for mini challenge 1A, we have Arista, Theodora. Congratulations, Arista. Next, for the challenge 1B, the day 1, part B, we have Emma Rose Chow. Thank you. We have one last one by Zing. For the challenge day 2, part A, we have Caden Chua. Caden. Thank you. Zing. All right, so we have the last, whoops. We should have 3, and we have 2. Yeah, maybe we can represent it. Ah, I see, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's present the last 2. Okay, so for the part 2B, we have Shanzi Ren. Ren. Congratulations. So last but not least, for the part 3B, we have Ashley Kwa. Thank you. Thank you to the jury and presenting the awards and for all the times that we spent looking at the schemes and providing sort of good discussions around it. I think that's the end of our program today. Is there any last words from?
If anyone would like to talk to us, please feel free to.
Yes, so we're around right after now. So we'll be happy to stick around and have a conversations if you like. Before we go, we'd like to present a token of thank you to the juries. Oh, okay. Thank you. All the best to you all. All right, congratulations again. Thanks.
All right, participants, thank you for coming today to join us for this award ceremony and roundtable. Just a short note, SUTD will be having our open house on 9